Are you against meditation when you think it doesn't work as well as hallucination?
Well, no, I think they're completely different realms of human activity. I can't, meditation, you don't hallucinate. You don't.
It's true, so to speak.
They say you do, but they aren't very convincing. And plus, the monks then rush over and explain that you're doing it wrong. So, what's the deal?
So first thing here, we're already talking about very specific forms of meditation, very specific traditions of meditation. So for him to kind of like bring up monks is already indicating to me, his somewhat limited perspective of what meditation is and all the different ways that it could possibly be practiced. But let's keep watching here.
I think if by meditation you mean lying down and closing your eyes, or sitting up and closing your eyes a lot, I do that a lot, and I like it, but I would never confuse it with the psychedelic enterprise.
I don't think it gets you to the same revelatory position.
Pardon me?
You don't think it can get you to the same revelatory position?
It's only my opinion, but I really don't. I think that it's that all of these spiritual techniques are not substitutions for the psychedelic experience, but trade-offs. Organized religion is as concerned with controlling social groups as organized politics is.
Okay, so now we're conflating organizations that may have practices that they utilize with the effects that someone could possibly experience with psychedelics. I kind of get what he's saying, but I think an example of what he might be saying is how yoga could largely be intertwined with religions like Hinduism. And I could see how, from that perspective, for someone to practice yoga, that they're also incorporating Hindu ideas, and that can be somewhat limiting, and saying that the only way someone could practice these exercises that naturally produce psychedelic states is by incorporating the religious ideologies that are associated with those practices it's not correct.
And the visionary or ecstatic experience is unsettling to the religious mentality. Even among fundamentalist Christians, if you're not one, they all seem more or less alike. But if you move into that world, you discover that they are very strongly polarized in two directions. Those who are scripturalists and those who are experientialists. The glossolalias, the speaking in tongues, the holy rollers, that sort of thing. And the scripturalists are very uncomfortable around the experientialists, because to them it looks like demonic possession, and they get really agitated about that.
I think that medicine and meditation go very well together. I'll take ayahuasca or psilocybin and sit in the lotus position for many hours, and it's incredible how they work well together. And then after the experience is over, the next time I meditate, I feel like I'm still doing the medicine.
Yeah, well, I think that all of these techniques, like mantra, yantra, tantra, whatever, they work incredibly well in the presence of psychedelics, leading me.
They work incredibly well on their own. There are obviously many people who've never consumed psychedelics, but whenever you speak with them, it's very apparent that what they're experiencing in their minds is very different from someone who's not practiced those exercises before. I would say that you don't need psychedelics in order to reach those states. It's just very apparent that Terence hasn't really practiced these exercises to the point where he could realize that something was happening on its own.
To suppose that what these are tools that were developed in the Paleolithic world of psychedelic magic, and all we have now are these tools, but we don't have the original engine that drove them. Yes, I am very bored by spiritual practice unless I've taken a psychedelic, and then...
I think that statement is largely indicative, again, of the lack of his willingness to explore. Now, here's the thing. During his time, psychedelics were relatively unknown. I mean, you know, of course, there were people who experienced them and took them in the 60s and 70s and 80s and everything like that. But in comparison to today's world, there was still relatively few people who had been consuming psychedelics at the time that Terence was. And so it's very much like the world that he was existing in was very limited. I mean, there weren't really very many extremely well-known individuals who were teaching practices like meditation or who were promoting them. Nowadays, there are many people who promote these exercises. So, you know, perhaps there wasn't enough motivation on his part or evidence to believe that there was something actually really big, something really amazing that happens whenever you practice these exercises. But obviously, you know, through the psychedelics, you can tell something weird is happening, something abnormal. And that's, I think, largely what inspired him, was because of how apparent it was. You know, whether you wanted to or not, if you consumed the psychedelic, something was going to happen. Whereas it truly takes practice to follow these exercises to the point where you do realize that something is happening. And I think he just didn't really ever get to that point with those practices, and that's why he's saying what he's saying.
You know, mantric chanting is beyond the power of mind to encompass or describe. Sex isn't bad either. And, it seems to be a general functional enhancer, is what it is. Yeah.
What about drums?
Acoustical driving is also a tried and true tradition. But see, it's not about the exclusivity of method, but the combination of method. I mean, what you want to do is beat your drum while sitting in Yab Yum, while stoned on X, while at the holy mountain, while the astrological configuration is correct, and then, you know, line it all up and then push it through. That's the way to do it, I think.
I don't know what to think about that. On one hand, I can see how what he is saying is something that he truly believes, while also at the same time kind of trolling the idea and, you know, these suggestions that the audience is making. But ultimately, I think what he is saying, he actually does believe that if you're going to incorporate these practices, that you still, at the end of the day, need to be intoxicated in some way, and that you need to have certain things all aligned in order for these practices to have any sort of meaningful effect. I feel that that is genuinely what he's expressing, as much as it comes off in a comical way. Again, it's coming from a place of not truly respecting these practices. You know, that really only comes from experience. That really only comes from having a connection with them yourself that would really show you personally that there is something actually going on. You're not going to get this understanding from seeing other people follow these practices. You will think they are just as crazy as someone who took psychedelics, you know, would tell you that, oh, it's an entirely new world that's possible, as much as you would think that person is crazy. You see what I mean when I say that? So it's like, this is what being beyond psychedelics really looks like. I feel the next step would be to respect Terence's work and to acknowledge that there were obviously areas of expertise which he did not follow, and therefore there's knowledge and information that he may not have truly have been aware of, and that's why he's saying what he's saying when we know differently in today's world. You know, what is your perspective? Let me know in the comment section below. This is obviously a fascinating topic of discussion, And I would love to know more about what you think. So subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed watching this video and if this was an interesting topic of discussion, and if you would like to see more videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until the next one, I love you all. Peace.